Alright, well in today's video I want to show where I'm at with some of these cars that I just had applied the JB weld and got them together. There's these 6 cars here. I've got this one drying and drying. This one, it would not come together and stay together well when I put the JB weld in. And you know, normally, I won't say normally, but most of the time when I apply the JB weld, I can just, you know, snap the plastic into the top of the metal studs that are there where the rivets were, and just let it sit and it'll dry. This has been drying for about 8 hours now, but sometimes it won't stay in, and so I have to clamp it. So I've clamped this one, and yeah, the JB weld is dry. You can see I use this little piece of paper and small piece of old paper towel so that the clamp doesn't mar the top of the car where I put it in place. And this is now good to go. So sometimes you got to clamp them, and yeah, these clamps work out well. They're not. I think they were like $1.50 or something at Lowe's or Home Depot, and you know, I've got 3 or 4 of them, and they work out well. I don't have to use them as much as I used to. A lot of the earlier cars, like the 2007, 2008, the COTs, like yeah, this one here I'll probably have to clamp, because that will be just the nature of those cars. You have to clamp them. So with these Blaney cars, I've got 2 coats of clear sealer on them, and these are ready to start decaling. I kind of line the cars up over here on my side here when they're all ready to go with the with decals, so that way I can prioritize these, you know, this one and then this one, like that. And then I can start putting in the cars I'm going to work on in the next batch. So let me show you how to do that real quick. So it's nothing that's rocket science, of course, but I'm going to be making some Ricky Stenhouse cars as a custom request. And but how I open these boxes when I get them, I want to be careful not to rip them when I open them. So what I do is I take my tweezers and I kind of shove it in here, push against here, and lift. And that way I don't you know, ruin this edge or rip this edge here, and I can get the car out. Yeah, just kind of carefully take it out, and then I'll just kind of set it there, put this back in, and I won't close it all the way. I'll just kind of do it just like that. So yeah, so that's how I open these. And, you know, I mean, I don't know how much of the collectors like to retain the boxes. I mean, I like the boxes. I like to try to keep the boxes as nice as I can, because you know, you may display it in a box or store it in a box. I don't know, but I don't want to destroy the box if I don't have to. So yeah. So I'll do those later. Like I was showing, I'm gonna work on this Blaney car and get some decals in the water and show you how, especially how I apply this on the front end. So here's my front end decal. I wrap it around. You can see it just comes up short. goes up short. So what I do, I'm going to get rid of this Ford decal because I want to be able to apply that separately. If you can trim the decals down, and get rid of as much of the area of the backing that doesn't have a decal, the better. Because if for some reason this wrinkles or if it's not straight, I mean, I can put this Ford logo on straight by itself. So I try to separate them as much as I can. Sometimes you don't have to, but it's pretty rare. I'm also going to, and I washed my hands before I started the video. I'm working on changing my wife's car, the oil in her car, and so I'm videoing that too. And I needed to wash my hands twice actually. Get any residue of the motor oil, the used motor oil, off of my hands. Okay. So I cut off the headlights, and just want to make sure the headlights are something that I can apply and line up nicely onto the decal body. If I leave them on this sheet, there's no telling where they're going to end up. So once this is ready, get this in the water. Just dip it for a second or two and let it sit. I got this trunk piece to go on. I got this roof number 12 to go on. And I want to line up this this monster banner across the windshield just to make sure it's not too long. Yeah, it is a little too long. Sometimes it's just a little long and you got to trim the sides of it. I don't want to trim the little Ford logo, so I want to trim just a little bit here, and I think that'll be enough. I'll trim this up, take these pieces off of the hood, because they'll go on separately, and just kind of get this all ready. These are actually some of the last pieces that I put on, because this lines up with the side decals. Also, this little vent on the roof, or on the hood, that little tiny piece is something that Pattos started making sure was on his cars, and so if I remember, I try to put it on there. Sometimes I don't remember because it's so small, and I just, when I cut out the decals, I forget it, but I remembered it now. So just trimming this down. Yeah, I must confess, I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. Grew up in Pennsylvania, and like I like to tell my friends, I was wearing black and gold from the cradle. I really didn't have a choice in the matter. It's in my blood almost. And so yeah, I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. Sometimes you might see a Redskins cup. I like the Redskins. My wife likes the Redskins, since we live right outside of Washington, D.C. But they're not my favorite. I'll cheer for them, especially when they're playing the Cowboys. Oof. Dallas Cowboys. I have a hard time rooting for them ever. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this hood decal in the water, as well as this Pennzoil and the Ford logo. So I'll do the I'll do the hood and roof, and yeah, so here's the back, and I'll just kind of trim this up. Well, that stuff is still getting wet, this little rear camera. Now I didn't paint the roof lines or the spoiler yet, so since I haven't done that yet, and now I'm decaling, I'll have to do that when the car's all done and I got a couple coats of sealer on it. That's just the way that's going to go down. Sometimes I get it before I start decaling. Sometimes I don't. I cut out the individual lights for the back most of the time, especially on these Fords, because the centerpiece in the back is recessed on the trunk. I'll show you. So it's kind of recessed in there. So I like to. That's going to have to. That decal in there is going to have to be separated, or you're going to see the effects of you know, just maybe the wrinkled effects of the decal space between the lights and the center decal. It's not going to turn out right. Believe me, I've done it, or I've tried to do it, and it doesn't turn out just right. So yeah, this will fit in there nicely. Made a couple of these Hawk Carlisle cars already. You can see this Ford logo. This Ford logo goes over top of the red, so I almost kind of have to leave it. There's no space in between there, so I gotta leave it there. But this 12 I can remove. Be careful, this is kind of thin here. I don't want to rip it. Alright. So we'll get this in the water. And trim this 12 down. I don't think I've shown too many videos of me trimming these things. It's almost like an art in and of itself somewhat. Trimming everything down. I really like these little scissors. Little tiny ones. They work pretty well. Alright, so let's start with this 12. Yeah, it slides pretty easily. When I was putting the clear sealer on this white car, boy, I tell you what, the fuzzies, I don't know what was going on, but there was a lot of fuzzies. To me, more than normal for some reason. But you can definitely see them on a white car more than any car that you work on. The white will reveal so much when you're doing this. And so you really want to, have an eye, because you don't want to have those little streaks of, fabric or whatever you know, that's floating through the air in your sealer and you know, in your paint, or, you know, in the sealer over top of a white car. They're just, it's too easily noticed. This looks pretty good. Get this back decal on. Hawk Performance. Now, sometimes I wonder where these sponsors get their money to sponsor these cars. So this is a tight fit here. There's not a whole lot of room for error there. Right above those deck lid pins, and right along the back here and right along the edges. It's a perfect fit, but definitely doesn't leave any room for movement. Okay. All right, let's put the Monster logo on the hood. So I've been expecting a shipment of decals from Pattos with this COVID-19 business. There's been a delay, obviously, with shipping. Most of what gets shipped overseas goes on passenger jets. It's coming from Australia, so the delay is significant. I mean, I ordered decals almost a month ago, and they're not here yet. And that's pretty rare. Usually it's 2 weeks, and they're here. But yeah, that'll be, it's like Christmas morning when I get decals from Pattos. Just exciting. Okay, so now let's put this decal across the nose, and I'll show you how it comes up short. So this is something you just have to work in. Try to get it lined up. And this is where my thumb really comes into play. So it's not always that these Ford grills line up perfectly with the die-cast body. Usually they're a little high. But yeah, you can see how that comes up short there on this side. You know, when that happens, you just got to make the best of it, you know. The decal, you know, it's a little short, but it's not the end of the world. You can make it look good. I like to kind of push like this to get it to push into the center. And this is real important, why your hand's got to be clean. So you can see that. Short there. Short there. So I'm just kind of looking for any bubbles that might be in there, any spots. I want to make sure things line up pretty good. And once it gets on there, just want to let it sit. I don't work it too much. Alright, let's get the Ford logo on. Make sure that's centered. See this. Okay. And then we'll get this Pennzoil on. Make sure that's centered down by these hood pins. Not right on top of them, but pretty close. Alright, let's get rid of some of these. Alright, so let's finish this front here with the centerpiece. Yeah, that looks good. Rarely do I lay it on in a spot that's right where it's supposed to go. Okay. Want this to conform to the hood. Okay. Looks pretty good. Alright, now let's put this on the bottom. So I can see I might have to touch up a little paint there. It doesn't look like it reaches all the way to the bottom. I don't want to go too low because I don't want it to hang over in the middle. Okay. Let's put the piece in the center. Alright. It's coming together pretty well. Looks like I got a little fuzzy there. Okay, so on these little tail lights, at least on the Fords, you kind of need to make sure that they line up with this fuel door. Sometimes I'll put this piece on first and then line this one up. But I usually do this left one first, like so, and then the right one, and I'll try to make it as even as possible. got to kind of conform to the body a little bit. So I kind of take my thumb and finger and get it to bend around there. And it goes. If you let it sit in the water enough, it'll bend around pretty nicely. Just gotta make sure it stays. Pretty good. And then this little camera, at least on the decal set, it had it up here. So we'll put it up top here on this left side, like so. And then the number 12, right above the line here. I probably could have left it on, but that's fine. It's easier, I think, to cut it out. If I'd have left it on, I would have had to trim around it. And when you trim around it and then you wet it, it's sometimes like when you pull it off of the paper backing, it's sometimes like the fold, if you have something like that. So I like to trim those off as best as you can. So yeah, so that's this car. But again, you can see how the decal in the front doesn't wrap all the way around to the tires, and that's why you need to pre-paint it. And I'll just let this sit for a few minutes, and then I'll work at putting on one of these sides, probably this side, and then once that's there, I'll take a look and see if I need to add any more paint. If I do, I'll take a break and I'll apply all the decals that I can, and it's probably going to be, I'll leave the headlights and these two pieces here. I'll put all this other stuff on, let it dry, put a couple coats of sealer on it, and then where I line these up and I see there's going to be some gaps, I'll do a little bit of the red paint where I might have some white exposed, and then because again, I don't want to paint over top of a dry decal. I want to make sure the decals are sealed, at least with 2 coats of sealer before I put any paint on it. And then I'll put the headlights on in these last pieces and try to get everything to line up as best I can. So yeah, so that's coming together pretty well. And like I said, I'll probably have follow the same scenario for these two cars. But that's really all I wanted to show today. I'm excited again for the Pattos decals to come in the mail. Expected them any day, and that'll be an exciting video. I'll show you how I kind of open that package and show you how the decals look when they come straight from Pattos in the mail. So, all right, you guys have a blessed day, and we'll talk to you soon.